All right, let's go ahead and add a solid now on top of every layer here, and we're going to have it fade this guy out to black. So we're going to go to Layer, New, Solid, and we're going to make this black. Hit OK, and also choose Make Comp Size. You see the solid lives on top of everything? And if you want to rename it, just go ahead and select that layer and hit Return on your keyboard, Enter or Return, and call it Fade. And hit Enter or Return again. Now what we want to do with this guy is, of course, we want to trim this as well so that it's going to fade out. So let's go to the beginning of the solid, like so. We're right where he begins. And we're going to hit T on the keyboard for opacity. Let's go ahead and drop the opacity down all the way to 0. And then let's go back to our timeline. And we're going to have this guy stay at 0 for this part, right about here. Just go a little bit in. And I want to show you a little trick here. We can actually jiggle this 0. Just go ahead and jiggle it a little bit, and we'll add another keyframe. And then from this point on, we want to fade this out. So go to 100%. And when we preview it, we see that the ship passes by and it fades. Now I actually want it to fade while the ship's moving a little bit. So I think I'm going to take this keyframe and move it just a little closer to that first frame. So the fade starts as he starts to fade out. I'm also going to take this and extend it, or rather reduce the length of it so that the fade happens a little faster. So as you can see, the shorter something is, the faster it occurs. And the longer it is, the longer it lasts. So I'm going to just go back a little bit and hit home from here, or actually spacebar, and play it back. Awesome. Now, as you can see, everything shows up again, which is not what we want at this point. So we're going to go ahead and trim these guys. Let's go ahead and move our current time indicator to the end of the fade, like so. And we'll keep the stars there because the logo is going to show up right here. As soon as the stars show up, we're going to put the logo. And the logo is going to come at us. It's just going to like show up out of nowhere. So it's going to be really small and boom, be in our face. So grab the logo and throw it right in your comp. Or if you want to make sure it's centered, just drag it right into your timeline. Now it looks a little jaggedy because don't forget we're working at half. If we put it on full, it'll clean that up for us. So I'm going to go back to half. I'm also going to trim the logo. And I want to make sure the logo actually just comes at us from nowhere. So on the first frame of that logo, let's go ahead and twirl the scale property by hitting S on the keyboard. Go ahead and put the stopwatch on and make this guy like way out there like so. And then move in a little bit like so. And then bring it back to 100%. I'll go ahead and just move the current time indicator. We have our fade. And then kabam, we have our logo smashing us in the face. And what we can do later on is we could try to add a wiggler to it to make it move a little bit. Or you can do it yourself. We already have auto keyframing on. So as it comes at us, we can go ahead and just reposition things. So we can go ahead and add the wiggler later on, but we have our 2 keyframes for now. Okay, so now that we have everything in position, it's time to think about really making this look a little cooler. Because so far, so good. And what we can do as well is we can add another fade out if we want to, or we can go ahead and start adding the ship flying by and we add our actors' names. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about some of the special effects first, because at this point, I think you guys really have a grasp as to how to put together a comp. So let's go ahead now and talk about jazzing this up. Let's add the wiggler to the text. Let's go ahead and actually put a glow on this planet so it has a nice atmosphere. And we might even add something like a snow filter so we can have some star particles. I think I just made that up. Star particles flying by in the foreground so we can have a little bit more depth and the feeling of this thing being in actual space.